before we get started, I want to use, it's interesting how life works out, isn't it?
Yes.
Normally, when I come in here, I don't put a whole lot of thought into, I just kind of say, I just want to go with whatever flows out of me, just be a conduit for wisdom, hopefully. This subject today, talking about mind control and the hypnosis of social conditioning and what we can do against it to defend ourselves against the defense against the dark arts. This is a subject that I could talk days on. So to keep on track, I made myself some little cards. However, I forgot my glasses, so I can't read my cards. I don't need them. Because as soon as we hear that information, it's kind of like all of these thoughts that I had, they're out the door anyway. So in a moment, we're going to do a meditation. But before we do that, and this will be a healing meditation, Skookum's is going to be sending angelic vibrations into us, through us, similar to the way Todd does on the full moon meditation. And I just want you to be mindful of the experience that you're having during the meditation. But before we even start that, if you can, and I know I'm calling on your memory, and our memories are not nearly as good as we give them credit to be. I might demonstrate that a little bit in some of the stuff that we do here as well. But if you can, think about how you felt as you were arriving here. How you felt as you came in and you saw members of the community and friends and connected, and just what that felt like. And you can just recall, get back into that feeling right now. And just on a scale in your mind of what your internal experience is. One is that you're totally blissed out. You are the Buddha. You are just at peace. You're having a total Zen moment. 99 is you're so uncomfortable you need to run screaming from the room and crawl up in a fetal position or meditate or medicate or whatever your stress dealing thing of the moment is. That's 99. 1 is Zen. Where were you when you got here today as you were seeing people, as you look out and connect with all of the folks in the room? Where are you on that scale? And it's totally subjective. There's no right or wrong answers. Just what is your wisdom telling you is your level as you think about that right now? Okay, so our scale is 1 is Zen temple, 99 is run screaming from the room. As Dawn started to talk about what Marcel is going through and what we can do to help, and as you recall that now and think about that now, what's happening to your internal experience? I know mine, the second that I heard it, went way up. My level of discomfort that I was experiencing, I immediately thought, I owe him a phone call. What a weird thought to have pop up. And I never made that phone call. And so now I need to make that phone call. And all kinds of mental static just started happening. And said, okay, what can I do? How can we help as a community? And I noticed, I don't know what you guys experienced, but I noticed that my mental activity, my mental tachometer, it didn't get to the red line, but it amped up a lot. I don't know if you had a similar experience or not, if you're having it now. As we go into the meditation, through the meditation, I'm just going to ask you a couple of times to just notice, to just check in. And when I say check in, you can do it right now. How are you doing on the inside? And for me, since I've shifted gears, I was pretty amped up as I was talking about that, as I was giving voice to all of those concerns. That amped me up. Now that I'm thinking about the meditation, I'm already getting just a little bit calmer. I know in a second, and my body knows in a second, we're going to start rhythmically breathing And man, I am conditioned to my breath controls my experience 100% of the time. And I'm going to invite you guys to invite some of that into your life. So yeah, just take a couple of nice deep cleansing breaths and have the intention that we're eventually, there's a few things I want to do ahead of time, but we're eventually going to get to a healing space for everybody in this room who has gone through specific challenges. And then once we've done all of that, we'll channel it all to Marcel. And some of you will imagine him right here in the bed that is not yet, the crystal bed that's on its way, that we are manifesting right now. And you'll see him here. For others of you, he may show up in his hospital room. Providence room 180, is that right? 580. 580. Providence room 580. You may just kind of see yourself traveling there, and Marcel may enter your awareness. However that shows up for you in this moment is absolutely right for you right now. So just be accepting of whatever shows up. So go ahead and close your eyes. And as the music begins, just become very intentional with your breath. Take conscious control over your breathing. And breathe a little bit more deeply than you normally would. And as you breathe out, just visualize yourself. You use the theater of your imagination to just see stress and strain of your day, your week, your month, your year, last couple of years, whatever is appropriate for you. With every exhalation, just see that going away. And as you breathe in, you're breathing in newness, new cells, new oxygen that's going to give life to all of your other cells. It's going to make your blood red. And breathe out the stress. And just allow whatever that happens to show up in you in this moment to show up without any judgment. You don't need to assist. You don't need to resist. There's no way of doing this wrong. And you may notice that there are wonderful thoughts that are showing up. And you may notice that there's some that are concerned. And we don't need to engage those. We don't need to judge those. We don't need to think, oh, I'm doing this wrong. There's no wrong. What's showing up is showing up. And tune in the vibration of the strings as Skookum pulls on them, sending out a unique note. And just see if you can notice how that note is hitting you. If you can become one with that note. We are energy on a cellular level. This idea that we're matter is an illusion. On a cellular level, it's all energy. So just become one with that energy. Become one with the sound of the truck backing up. Just bring that in and welcome it. And now just check in with yourself on that scale from 1 to 99 to see how are we doing. And any stress or strain that you're still feeling, any tension, I invite you to breathe out from that location. If you're noticing butterflies in your stomach, just imagine netting up the butterflies and blowing them out. Just with a lovely exhalation, and then invite in the vibration and invite in the oxygen and invite it into that space, that vacuum that we've just created. And keep breathing, taking conscious control of our breath. And now from this spot, this level of aligned, centered grounding, just call on your body's innate ability to heal. I mean, think about it. When we get a splinter, our body knows how to fight off infection. We don't need to do anything. There are pills that we can take to help, but our body really doesn't need any help. It knows how to fight off colds, knows how to fight off flus. It allows anger to flow through. Just get into that very deep level of peace. And now from here, check in on that scale and see how you're doing. Where are you on that scale? And just have the intention that you're now emitting your vibration out beyond your physical body. Pick a friend or neighbor in the room and just see if you can call their being into your awareness. And just have the intention that love and support flows from your heart to theirs. And if you need to make a little adjustment, make a little adjustment. Just go to where you need to go. There are members in this room that have had some health challenges. There's members in this room that have had some environmental challenges. So just whoever awareness guides you to now to send light and healing energy and love from your heart to that person's heart. See the energy coming from wherever the energy comes from. Source. And we're conditioned to understand that it enters through our crown chakra. So see it coming in through your crown, down through your third eye, cleansing your intuition, getting one with your ability to do this exercise, down into your throat chakra so your voice is clear, your intention is clear, your ability to express these feelings are clear, and down into your heart. And notice that your heart is always pure. It's always doing the best it can for you with the resources that it has available in that moment. And in this moment, you can notice that clarity is abundant. Maybe more clear than you felt in a little while, in just a few little minutes that we've been here together. And whoever your intuition guides you to send that energy, Skookums for healing, Sherry for her break-in, anybody else that you're aware that could just benefit. Trust your guidance. Feel the energy flowing through you, down through the chakras, out through your love center, to the person that needs it most, guided by wisdom in this moment. No right or wrong way to do it. And just remember to breathe. We get so subtle in these moments that oftentimes we forget, and when we check in, we notice, wow, practically not breathing at all. It's a very subtle bit of experience. And now collectively, let's continue the healing that we're doing on whomever it is that we're doing the healing on, but also have intention and attention in awareness of Marcel. And however Marcel happens to be showing up for you right now, it might be a memory, it might be him laying on the crystal table that is not yet the one that we're in the process of manifesting. It might be in 580 at Providence Hospital. Wherever it is, just have the energy coming in through your crown, cleansing your intuition and your ability to speak through your heart and flowing there. And just seal that with the idea that this energy, this healing energy that we have offered freely without condition, unconditioned healing energy as our gift to the other members of our community and to the universe as a whole. Just have the intention that that energy goes out for the highest and best good of the people who need it now. And now, before we come back, just notice, where is your awareness? Mine is all over the place. I feel like I've got all of the Anchorage Bowl sitting in my lap. Yours may be different. Yours may be only awareness in your body like it is in the waking state of consciousness. And if that's the case, that's okay. But you can probably look back and see that there were times that awareness was much broader than this physical being, our user interface for the spiritual body having a human experience. So in a moment, you can come back to the room, checking in one more time how you're doing. And when you're ready, just open your eyes. Thank you, Skookums. That was awesome as usual. So how many people noticed some pretty dramatic shifts on that scale of your inner experience? How many didn't notice at all? Didn't notice any changes? A couple of people. Okay, interesting. So with practice, I will suggest to you that as you're checking in with that, you will begin to notice that our internal experience is going up and down and up and down and up and down all the time. And today we're going to talk about conditioning. We are human beings, or as I like to say, spiritual beings having a human experience. I think of this as the interface for the human experience. And the interface is offering guidance all the time. And it's unbelievably powerful. My journey into this started, as I was thinking about this today, I realized 45 years ago next month. I was a freshman at the University of South Florida, sitting in a psych class, Psych 101, which is like, people have been there. It's like one of the most popular introductory freshman classes in high school. I don't have any idea how many are in my class. It feels like there was about 200 to 300. And maybe my memory just exaggerating, who knows. But I do remember this. We were talking about the placebo effect. Do we know what the placebo effect is? Everybody know what that is? They have to test against that when they're testing new drugs. So my professor was up there explaining how it works and why it's important and what the deal is. And they said that it's not unusual that a drug may give a 55% response. You know, if it tells you that it's going to make you calmer, 55% of the people may take it. But it's not unusual that the placebo may be 52. And so they will look at that and say, well, this drug isn't that effective because it's just really barely giving a little bit better of just what the mind can do. And that was about the last thing that I heard of that lecture that day. And all I could think about was, why are we like building these tests? In fact, the tests that they do now, they have to be double-blind studies, right. Which means if Michael is the subject and he's getting the pill and I'm giving him, I can't know, am I giving Michael the sugar pill or am I giving him the actual drug, double blind, because they found out that Michael and all of us, not unique to Michael, all of us have the ability to read so much about what's going on without any input verbally to tell us what's going on. I know you've like walked into a room and there was nothing going on in the room. Everything stopped the moment that you got in the room, and the two people that were in there, you just got the sense that they were arguing, that they were fighting, right? It's like you could smell it in the air, like tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. That's our ability to pick things up. And when the teacher, like 5 minutes to go in the class, said, "Are there any questions?" my hand shot up and I'm like, why are we studying the placebo? Why aren't we studying our mind's ability to really go in there? And she says, they do that, it's just not in this course. And so afterwards I went and I said, what course is it?
Where do I go?
Really?
Anybody have an idea of what they might be teaching in psychology that would work directly with the power of the human mind?
Meditation.
Meditation's one. Mindfulness, biofeedback.
Awareness classes.
Awareness classes.
Hypnosis.
Hypnosis, yes. That was the first thing that came out of her mind. I didn't do anything with it then, but a seed was planted. And it took 20 years almost, 25 years almost, before I took my first hypnosis class. And I went and took the class. It was a 7-day class. It was a really good class, one of the best ones I've taken, maybe because it was my first and all of this stuff was exciting and new, who knows. But I started to take it, and I told my boss, I was working for Bank of America at the time, and I said, dude, we are about to have massive breakthroughs here. I've learned so much about the way the mind works and kind of things done. And he's like, where'd you learn all this stuff? And at a hypnosis course. And he immediately said, do not, under any circumstances, practice hypnosis here. And I'm like, what? Why? And, you know, it's kind of mired in mystery and misconception and all of that. So I was prohibited from doing it at work. Now, the good thing is I took an Ericksonian covert hypnosis course. And I learned how to do it without, like, having to do any type of formal trance. So that became an interesting laboratory for mind control. And I'll talk a little bit about that first. And mind control on the level that I'm talking about it is not what we would think of for anybody who's been to boot camp. Mind control?
Yes.
You know, you go peace-loving, dove-loving, peaceful pacifist. 13 weeks later, or however long it is, you're a highly trained killer. 13 weeks.
Programming?
Yeah.
Hypnosis.
Conditioning.
Conditioning.
Hypnosis. Cult-like stuff. Getting them away from all of the other influences out in Paris Island in the middle of nowhere with only one authority who is doing what? What's the first thing anybody who's been or just seen the movie, what's the first thing they do?
Break your will.
Break you down. They break you down. They make it so you don't understand anything that's going on. You're so distracted that you got room to let new information come in. And we like to learn. We're conditioned to learn. Can you guys remember the very first thing that you've learned? I've done a lot of this kind of stuff. I can remember my first time that I ever saw my mom. Now, the weird thing about it is, and I got through this in hypnosis. I got to this in hypnosis. And my first thing, my mom's sitting there in a dress, you know, it's like the early 60s, so she kind of looked like Betty Crocker or Doris Day. And I'm sitting on the floor just in a diaper. And I'm looking up into my mom's eyes, and my mom's making faces, and I'm laughing. And I'm laughing hysterically. And I was a fat kid. At 1 year, I weighed 33 pounds.
Wow.
I was born at 9 pounds, 8 ounces.
You did well.
Yeah. And so I didn't walk much. I didn't talk much. I got carried everywhere I was going. And, but I laughed a lot. And evidently I was a funny, laughy, jiggly baby, and I would frequently fall over. And that was like the jackpot for my mom. And my first memory of my mom is her looking into my eyes, and I'm laughing, and she's laughing, and I'm laughing, and she's laughing. And we've just got this wonderful, unending giggle loop that's happening. It's interesting to play with like what you can remember. And for most people, it's around 3 or 4.
Right.
That memory is about 3.5 for me, which I know because my dad was in the Air Force and we moved. So I have like little bands of 3 years where I lived in this place and this place. And I know the age because I remember the house. And the conditioning begins when we can speak. That's one of the reasons that we don't have memories going back further than our ability to speak. Because when we get our ability to speak, we create an individual identity. Prior to that, we're just a bundle of pure awareness. And if you've ever been around a child or a grandchild who's not yet speaking yet, you will see they are 100% all present, all the time. Unbounded, unconditioned love and awareness. And I believe there is some research around this, but nothing that's comprehensive. But I believe the reason that most people are magnetically attracted to babies. I mean, you can see 2 people walking down the sidewalk having an intense discussion, maybe even an argument, just that they're intense. And they come across a baby and they're like, oh. All the tension and everything just flows away, right? We're familiar with this. This is not a new concept that I'm introducing you to. We're around that unbounded awareness. And my thought is that's a call for us to come home. Because how many people, when we were doing the meditation, went someplace non-local? Your awareness wasn't limited to the fact that you were sitting here in a room, in a chair. Right? How many people? About half, really? I would have thought it was a little bit more than that. How many people are not going to raise their hand regardless of what question I ask? The conditioning begins when we can talk. What's the first word that we learn?
Mama.
Mommy, most of the time. Sometimes daddy.
No.
Beaver.
Is there ever like a little competition going on between mommy and daddy to see who's going to win the first word?
I ignore that.
Race?
Yeah, yes.
Duh, duh, duh.
And the first step.
He's about to sneeze. Duh, duh, duh. He's saying daddy. He's saying daddy.
He's gonna walk.
We're conditioned and we learn, I'm Bobby. I'm daddy. You're Bobby. We're conditioned into separation. And then we're conditioned into learning. And what if we learn to do something well, what are we considered to be?
Smart. Brilliant.
Good, smart. Accolades, smart. Did you say smart?
Special. Gifted.
Special, gifted. And our parents like to brag about it. And when our parents get frustrated, what do they sometimes say to us? Particularly if they're new age parents.
Shut up.
Shut up.
That's old age, I think. That's old school. New school is, It's not you that's upsetting me, it's your behavior.
Right.
Little better, at least we're not tying it to their level of identity unconsciously, hypnotically, below the surface, so they're not even aware that it's happening.
Very good.
And we're conditioning that learning is good, and we're learning that if I don't act in a certain way, then I might make my mommy mad, and I don't like it when my mommy's mad. And I have a lot of responsibility. All of a sudden, my mom's condition, based on the current parenting model, has been delegated to a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old or a 7-year-old or a 9-year-old. What a weight of the world that we're putting, but it's conditioning. It's conditioning. It's not reality. So the first thing that I remember learning was how to tie a shoe. That's my first memory of going back, and
Pretty good.
I would tie a shoe and untie it. And I say, "Oops, Mommy, my shoe's untied." She'd roll her eyes and, God, seriously, do we have to play this game again? And I'd untie it again, and I'd untie it again. And ultimately, on one of the untyings, not that my mom conditioned me into this, but there would be a moment where I'd go to pull it,
And be a knot.
and there'd be a knot. Now, my mom was phenomenal. My mom, from the moment that I could talked to me about the power of our mind. And she filled me, like, from the earliest days that I can remember, that you can do stuff with your mind just by concentrating that is amazingly powerful. And my mom would say, "Oh, you're never going to get that out." And I would say, "Can't I do it, Mommy? With the power of my mind, if I concentrate on it hard enough, using the power of my mind, would it be possible to take that knot?"
Nice. Nice.
And just make it go away.
Well done.
Wow.
That's conditioning. You're conditioned to think that you saw something. The question that you might ask yourself is, was there ever a knot there
Right.
to begin with? And the conditioning might suggest, well, yeah, there was a knot. I saw it. Maybe. Can I tell our story of... we were here for I don't even remember what it was. I guess it was probably a meditation, or might have been a hypnotic thing. Skip was here. And Skip started talking about cards, and he had had a reading, and something had gone on, and there was a flower card, and he pulled the card one time, and then again pulled the same card the second time, and it blew his mind. And I mean, you could tell it blew his mind. I mean, when he was telling the story, you've seen Skip tell a story.
Yes.
It's a full body experience when he tells a story. And I said, "That's no big deal. Come here." And we did the cards. Fanned him out. Pick a card, any card. He picks flower card. Interesting. Put it back. Shuffle them up. Do all of your magic. Free choice. Pick another card. Which card did you pick?
Same one.
Flower card. So the question is, and he asked the question. He said, "That was a trick. You worked some kind of magic on that." And I said to him, "No trick. Purely coincidence." He didn't believe me. No trick. There was no trick. But the question is, was that free choice? It looked like, and he'll tell you, it felt like he had free choice. That he was just picking any card at random. Tarot deck has 78 cards. The likelihood of picking the same one
Right.
twice is 1 in 78.
Right.
The flower card is one of those 78. The likelihood of picking that twice is over 1 in 6,000.
3 or 4 times in a row.
So the question that Skip is wondering right now is, when he told me it was totally random, was that MFer lying to me? And we'll never know. But it looked like free choice. It felt like free choice. That's our conditioning. And all of magic, all of illusion, all of mind control. If you're worried about getting your minds controlled, and I'll talk about a couple of ways that they're doing it, all of mind control involves taking what's happening, the conditioning, the unfolding of the conditioning of the human being, knowing what's likely to happen with that, and getting out in front of it a little bit. Oh my God, how is that possible, Dawn? How is that possible? So I'll tell you a couple of quick stories that I did. So in Ericksonian and in covert hypnosis, the whole focus is on taking the trance that's already occurring. Because the truth of the matter is we are into and out of trance all day, every day. When you drove here, odds are good you were in a trance.
Yes.
You didn't need to be consciously aware of where it was you were going. You're kind of on autopilot. Bum, ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum. And that's a great way to be able to go. When you read a good book, you're in a trance. When you step into an elevator and do what everybody does, conversation's going on, step into the elevator, stop the conversation, turn, look at the numbers, quietly, quietly, quietly. Everyone faces the same direction. Bing! Conversation picks up exactly where it lets off. Elevator trance. So it just involves using the trances that are already naturally occurring. Oh, goodness. Okay. Actually, those stories are interesting, and if you want me to share, I'll share them later. How I use that to use some covert hypnosis and conditioning. Actually, I'll just tell one.
No.
So it happened shortly after I had gone through the class. I had an opportunity to get promoted to being a mid-level manager and responsible for a product line at Bank of America. And I would be in charge of all of the other employees. I wouldn't have outside clients anymore. All of my clients would be internal. And my job was to increase usage of this one particular product, which was their in-house money manager. Problem was, it's brand new. And anybody who's ever been to an investment person has likely seen a hypothetical illustration. Robbie probably runs about 50 of them a week to send to people to show how investments are doing. And the problem was, the product that I was responsible for didn't have one. It was brand new. It was only 3 years old. It celebrated its third birthday while I was there. And $10,000 invested 3 years ago was worth $10,002 today. Yay! Like money markets now. Money markets paid a lot better back then, and they wanted me to do that. And I said, what's the pay plan? And part of the pay plan was how much I increased the market share, the penetration of that. It was below 20% when I started. And so I said, okay, perfect opportunity for a little mind control. So the very first thing that I did was call into mind the tool that they were using, hypothetical illustrations. And I did it pretty boldly. I said, you're misleading your clients if you're using that, because there's a disclosure on there, past performance does not guarantee future result, and that should be in gigantic block letters. Everybody kind of says it under their breath. Yeah, as you know, past performance doesn't indicate future results. But look, check out how much, if you had to just put this money in, how much you'd have now. Bing, 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 bing. They're going on conditioning, and I said, you're misleading. a wonderful thing happened. I'm giving a presentation to a large group, the largest producer in the firm. When I said misleading, he said, I'll take it a step further. Number one guy in the company. If you're using those things, you're lying. You're lying to your clients. And it was really, really intense. And it was manna from heaven from me. Because now I didn't have to say it anymore. I could say, Frank Vigil said, I was down in Miami, and Frank Vigil said, we use authority figures to change beliefs that we have. And my goal was just to get them to stop doing what they had been conditioned to do and try something new. Now, while we're here, check in with yourself and how you're doing. I'm kind of intense in this part of the presentation. It's almost like a motivational type speech. Where is your internal experience? Are you like super excited? Are you more amped up than you were? Are you wondering, when is he going to get to his point? And this doesn't sound like an Adam talk. Any of those things that are showing up for you is fine. I just want to invite you to get used to opening up. So, long story that I'll really make short. Once I had that created the space. And all people are looking to do is get you to create space. People who are in the business of mind control. And really that's what my job was then. I was like the in-house cheerleader. I was a spin doctor for this particular aspect of Bank of America. And if the shit hit the fan, I was the one that had to field the calls. So I got real good at kind of reframing. That's what you think you're seeing. That's not what you're really seeing. You're seeing blue skies and sunshine. And people are paid a lot of money. Advertising executives, sales people, political consultants. Today, news people. Folks on the news are doing this. And one of the primary tools that we can use if we want to be spin doctors is playing with definitions. This doesn't mean that, this means this. So just ask yourself a question. Is that going on a little or a lot? Right now? And it's not team blue, it's not team red. They're both doing it. They're doing it with different things in mind, but team red, you're not that loyal. You're not loyal enough if you don't say that the election was a fraud. And team blue, recession. We're not using that old school definition that we've been using for 250 years. It's not a recession. It's this. It's a transition. We look to just change the definitions a little bit. Now, when we do that, or when people do that to us, a little thing comes up in our mind going, it doesn't feel right. You felt that? Just something seems off. So here's what I'm going to invite you to consider. We are conditioned to believe that our circumstances are what gives us the feeling that we're having. That makes sense? I'll say it another way. We're conditioned to believe that how we feel inside is a reflection of how things are on the outside. That's the conditioning. And that's one of the things. And it started off innocently. It started off with our parents. And it got picked up with our elementary school teachers and our Cub Scout leaders and our athletic coaches and our dance coaches and home ec teachers and everything. They all just consolidated, and it's about control. Because if I can get you to buy in that I'm not going to be happy unless you behave in a certain way, as long as we've got rapport, the likelihood that you will behave that way increases. So what do you do about it? I would invite you to consider, my feelings aren't telling me about my circumstances. My feelings are telling me about my internal experience. It's telling me how I'm doing. And I don't know about you guys, but I've gone from, like, I heard the Marcel news, I was crushed. Sherry told me her news at full moon meditation. And I had been processing the money. I have it, by the way. I had been processing the money from the full moon meditation. Sherry started telling me about her break-in, and it was gripping, man. And my heart went out, and I wanted to hear, and I wanted to know what I could do, and just be there and let her share the story. And man, I walked out of here with $106 in my pocket from the full moon meditation. This building is supported by your generosity. Thank you for giving. When we begin to shift those definitions, we're going to get a feeling that something's a little off. What I'm going to invite you to do is pull on the thread of that feeling. Get curious. Because if you've ever been in a situation where you've commuted, that's an easy example that a lot of people can relate to. You can remember being in traffic and being on the edge of road rage. That if somebody cut you off, you might just pull a gun out and blow their tire out and say, screw you! And off you go. And other days, same road, same car, surrounded by the same people, going in the same direction. Somebody cuts you off and you go, oh, must be in a rush. I'm glad I'm not in a rush. This is lovely music. I may be late for work, but I don't care because I've got an excuse. Ooh, and you're just driving down. The only thing that's changed, relatively speaking, is your internal experience. So here's a self-inquiry, a couple of things that you can do. Number one, the greatest exercise that you can do if you want to stop seeking, if you want to be aware of the fact, and it's a realization, it is a revelation. It's not something that you want to achieve. If you want to embody the concept that we are spiritual beings having a religious experience, those little odd feelings that pop up are a great time to go within, but it's not going to be enough. I'm going to suggest if you take out your smartphone and put on a little timer and just interrupt yourself more than every hour, every 45 minutes, every 33 minutes, every 37 minutes, and just stop and check in and see how you're doing. And you will very quickly notice, it won't take long, it won't take a full day, that you go from 40 to 80 to 60 to 90 to 11. And those are not unusual numbers on 35 or 40 minute check-ins. I teach meditation on an app called the Insight Timer, Meditation Timer Institute. They have a cool little feature on there where you can put a random gong, just put how many gongs you want to have during the day, and it'll do it one time at 5 minutes, and another time at an hour and a half, and another time at 33, and another time at 22. And I've been playing with that, and I'm sharing that with my new clients as just a way to get used to going within, having your default response be to go within. And just having a little inquiry and asking some questions. So the first question would be, what's going on? What am I feeling? With no judgment around that. I forgot my glasses this morning, as I told you. And I was walking around the house. I was pacing. And I'm not normally a pacer. I am when I'm not at my best. If you see me pacing, you know my mind's overactive and I'm trying to channel it in some way. And Carla says, "Are you nervous?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of am a little bit." And she's like, "What's going on?" And at this point, I just say, "I have no idea." And I honestly don't care, but I noticed. And sometimes I'll go in and go, "What is that about?" And even if I just do that now, what it's about was this. I knew I had so much to say and share and do that there was no way that I was going to be able to get it all in. And that's what I was nervous about. That's why I made the cards to help keep me on track. And I probably have gotten through about 3 of the cards so far.
Just go with the flow.
Because things come up and things go on. So the first question is, what's going on? Not why is this happening? That's the conditioning. And here's why you don't ever want to ask yourself why. Ask it to other people as much as you want. If somebody else asks you, go ahead and answer the question. But we spend a lot of time asking, why is this happening? What does this mean? Am I safe? Is this my fault? And that why question is not asking you about what's going on. It's asking you why it's going on. So we had that experience of the healing meditation that we did a few minutes ago. And hopefully the vast majority of us were very much in that experience. Now, in the middle of that, if I was to say, see where you're at. Why are you there? Now, your mind would come up with something, because our minds are great. We have a rational mind, and it is the only one who gets that sign. You've seen that sign, you had one job? You know, it'll be like the guy's stop sign is misspelled, and there'll be a sticker on there. You had one job. Well, somebody who gets, a part of us that gets its one job very well is the rational mind. It's always rationalizing. If we ask it a question, it will give us an answer. May not be based on fact. Probably not. It's probably based on conditioning. But it may not be based on anything at all. Our mind, and they've done double brain split experiments with people that have epilepsy that have to get their corpus callosum cut. They've done 2 brain studies, and they'll tell the left brain to do something, the left brain will go and do it, and then they'll ask the right brain, why did you do that? And the answer is never, because the guy over there told me to get up and do it, so I was just following his instructions. They'll make up something. I was cold. The light was too bright. There's background noise that I didn't want to hear. We'll make up something. We're perfectly happy to do that. And it's all answering those questions. What's going on? Why is this happening? Am I safe? Is this my fault? What do I need to do? That's our condition. And it goes so fast. So don't ask yourself, why is this happening? Just, what's happening? I'm nervous. Why are you nervous? Here's the second thing that you can do. Check in with 4 minds. You don't actually have 4 minds, but for the purposes of this presentation, let's pretend. Check in with your brain. Look and see what the answer is. Don't give it too much thing. Check in with your heart mind. Check in with your gut mind. And if you start getting into this habit, you will be astonished very quickly at how often those 3 answers are completely different. And now check in with the 4th mind. The 4th mind is big mind. And big mind is the collective. It's all of us. It's that part of us that if somebody, if we've got something going on and somebody calls us and says, hey, I was thinking about you, or if we make those calls, that's the connection to big mind. That's the divine I am. That's why when we are in meditation, that we're just pulled into this lovely space. Because here we are, 25, 30 people, whatever the number is. If we're all vibrating the vibration of peace, our body knows to entrain with that energy. And it gets drawn into that. And as long as we don't assist and we don't resist, it just happens effortlessly and automatically. So, first question, what am I noticing? Second question, what do I get as I think about this? I'm feeling nervous. Well, I'm going to be speaking in a little bit. Might be nervous about that. Probably that you have too much stuff to talk about. How does my heart feel? I love these people. Just anytime I'm with them, I feel good. So there's really no need to be nervous. What is my gut telling me? Best audience to talk to ever, because we are so supportive. Big mind, what's big mind tell me? Big mind tells me they don't know what I'm going to talk about. They don't know if I've only gotten to card 4 of my 17 that I can't read before because I don't have my glasses on. It'll be fine. So just check in to see those things. 2 things are happening there. One is you're getting a little bit of a different perspective. And you're getting the opportunity to try those on to see how that feels. And my experience has been, my client's experience has been, I suspect yours will be too, that very quickly one of those is going to feel right. It's kind of like you get a little buffet here. What would you like for dessert? We've got cheesecake, we've got carrot cake, we've got blueberry pie, we've got compote. Take the blueberry pie. Just know. There's a knowing that flows through us. So that's the second question. The third question, if you want to go a little bit deeper, explore just a little bit more. What do I have to believe in order for this to be true? And the fourth question is that true? Did Bobby have a knot in that string? Or was the knot never there to begin with? Did Skip feel like he had free choice? But there was no free choice to begin with. He could have told me to stop anywhere. Maybe. I'm not saying. Could have been random. And that flower would have been there again. And if you get into 2 habits, if I can leave you with I'll leave you with 3 things. Number 1, that experience that we got into during the meditation, assuming that you got into it, assuming that your awareness expanded out beyond the limitations of your physical body. Like awareness right now to me feels like it's right behind my eyes. It's like there's a little baby Bobby Jr. in there in the control center, and it's like taking in all of the inputs and sending out all of the outputs, and it's the controller, and that's the way it is a lot of the times. But other times, like during this meditation, man, it was everywhere. As I said, I felt like I had the Anchorage Bowl just in my lap, and I was beaming healing energy. So just explore that. And you can do it anytime. Second suggestion, interrupt your pattern to check in and see how you're doing in whatever way. Smartphone's the easiest. Just set a timer, countdown timer. Every 33 minutes, it goes off, and check in and see how you're doing. And if you don't like how you're doing, if you're like, ooh, I feel a little yucky, let that be just a signal to check in with your breath and how you're breathing. And if you're feeling yucky, I can almost promise you, you're holding your breath 100% of the time. Would you say? Michael, yeah. Both of you, all of you. So breathe. And through that breathing, and particularly if we have any type of a mindfulness or meditation practice that involves breathing, we'll very quickly set a trigger in ourselves that the moment, I mean, I was pretty agitated when I got up here, and I'm thinking, you know, okay, my whole speech is out the door, and where am I going to go, and blah, blah, blah. And the second that I said, okay, in a moment we're going to be breathing, I didn't even have to start breathing. It was just like, into that spot. And we all have that ability. It is innate, because calmness, tranquility, mental clarity, resilience is all innate with us. Installed at the manufacturer, by the manufacturer at the factory, part of the original equipment. But we condition these layers on top of it that we can't see. Like today with the sun. The sun's out, we know, and we can kind of tell, but we can't see it. But if we got into a plane and went through those clouds, you know, it'd be dark. There might be a time where we couldn't see the end of the wingtips. There might be some moisture that starts flowing along that window. But the moment that we get into the clouds, we're seeing the truth that the sun is shining as it always does, 100% of the time. If we can't see it, it's one of two reasons. Our planet's pointed in the wrong direction at the moment, or there's something obscuring our vision. But we know it's there. And if they do send a man back to the moon, they're going to have however many days, 8 or 9 days, of uninterrupted sunlight. Literally not a cloud in the sky, which is the truth. So, suggestion number 1, notice as you're expanding that awareness. Number 2, check in, and if you don't like where you are, check and see. Number 3, check in with your 4 minds. Rational mind, heart mind, gut mind, big mind. And when you're checking in from big mind, imagine that you're checking in from that place of pure awareness that we were 45 minutes ago. And just sit with that for a little bit. And if you do that for 90 days, I can almost promise you that you'd have a switch, that all of a sudden you would see that when you're caught in the illusion, your first thing would be what Skip's first thing was when I did that. His intuition told him, that's a trick. This is not random, but it was, or not. Okay, so with that, oh yeah. Okay, okay, a little bit of time for questions. What's your
What's the funniest situation that you've experienced while doing a hypnosis session?
The funniest? For me, the funniest session is when a client finds something. For me personally, that one with my mom is right up there. I had another session when I was the subject that like the hypnotist, this is when I was a student, the hypnotist that was teaching said, in a moment I'm going to count to 5 and I'm going to snap my fingers. And when I do, I want you to recall a childhood memory. 1, just relaxing and breathing. 2, this and that. 3, 4 and 5, I'm going to snap my fingers, boom. Now the whole time that she was counting up, I'm like, what if I get nothing? My rational mind. You know, what if nothing happens? What if I'm blank? Will I be embarrassed sitting up here in front of the group? You know, what's going on? And it was like I could barely hear the instructions. They were getting in, but I was not consciously aware of them. And then she snapped her fingers, and man, I was transported back to the age of 15, being called onto the field. I had made it into the Little League All-Stars, and my name was called, and that was a fond childhood memory. And that struck me so funny that I was like barreled over for laughing, and they're like, God, I can't wait to hear what the memory is. And I said, it's not the memory, it's all of the internal crap that was going on in my head before you snapped my finger. And that was a solid lesson as well, that in just one short pattern interrupt, crystal clarity. And it was there all the time. I just had to get all of the other stuff out of the way. Cool question, thanks.
Bobby, these tools could be used in any type of situation, relationship, business, partner,
Yeah.
whatever the case may be, but it sounds like a perfect little toolbox
Yeah,
to take to work with you.
yeah, yeah, I think so.
Take a life.
If we are,
There you go.
think about when you're grounded, when you're centered, when you're aligned, and somebody does you wrong. We can use that example of the person cutting you off, but it could be anything. People say rude things unintentionally that aren't meant to be rude, but if we're in the wrong headspace, it can hit us as pretty damn rude. What? And that same exact situation could be unfolding, but if we're grounded and we're centered and we're aligned and we're at peace, we likely might see how they didn't mean anything by that. And there's lots of different ways that I could interpret that. And it might even be kind of funny that, that's going, and so for a manager or for a client or somebody like that, yeah, having that presence and that clarity and that grounding is so perfect, because, it's good advice to not go to sleep with angry things on your mind, but it's also common that if we step away from a situation and then come back again, even a few minutes later, often it looks very different. And the situation hasn't changed. Situation is still the same, right? Our internal experience and our access to hope and possibility and other things has just increased. So just know as you go down, as your mental status goes up, your access to resource is going down. So if you just get curious about diving in, yes.
Well, of course, my own experience dealing with the trauma and the terror, my autonomous nervous system completely took over. I had no control. The police were like, ma'am, you can put the bat down. Ma'am, sit down.
Right.
I was so wired. And the adrenaline was rushing for
Yeah.
2.5 days. How do you not that this is my or anything, but how do you do that process when you are not in, I felt no control?
Okay, so a big part of this process is just having the mindset to not assist and not resist. Just let whatever show up. So, you went through a traumatic experience. You're probably somewhere still, maybe, I don't know. You would know if you got quiet. You might still be in shock. You might still be in trauma. If that doesn't pass, then that could stick with you. And, it could get hard to sleep. And I'm not putting that out there as a suggestion, but it could happen. But so here's a couple of things that I would do. Number one, respect the feeling and just get curious about it. And check in. What's my brain telling me? What's my heart telling me? What's my gut telling me? What's big mind telling me? And often two questions that big mind might ask you, or that you could suggest for big mind to ask you, is if everything happens for a reason, and feel free to hit the if really hard, if everything happens for a reason, what might be the reason that happened? What might be the reason that Marcel had a stroke right now as he's moving into Michael's home? I don't know. But if you get a little bit curious about that, if you get a little curious about anything, that creates room. And room is the enemy of conditioning.
Right.
So another question that you could ask is, Byron Katie calls Earth school. And she would say that in this moment, for the last 45 hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it's been, I've been your teacher. But she would also say that you've been mine, because you've been giving me feedback.
We'll hand you a bill at the end.
Was that?
I said,
You
we'll
take
hand you a
something,
bill
you
at
take
the
our bill at the end.
Perfect. Yeah, so another question would be, if there is a lesson here, what might that lesson be? And don't just sit with it and ask the four minds: rational mind, heart, gut, big mind. What might the lesson be? And just see what pops up. And don't judge whatever shows up. You know, our conditioning would be to go, gosh, Sherry, no, that's not it. That's ridiculous. Not you, but, you know, one. And if that happens, just set that aside. And just go, what might it be? If life is unfolding divinely, what might I be missing here? And it's just a way of shifting your attention a little bit and seeing what comes up. Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to, you're going to stay afterwards, of
Yeah.
course, because I know that there's a lot of people that would love to just chat with you.
Okay.
And we know you are a master teacher, for sure. So we are, let's give him a big hand.
Thank you so much, Bobby. Honestly, you guys, we need to encourage Bobby. He's had a couple workshops in his kicking around plans. And so we need to encourage you to make
This fall.
those happen, because you really are a master teacher. And, you know, this guy has done stage, he is a master liberation hypnotist. So if you need any help,
Reiki also?
Reiki master, like I said, and it's so cool because we
all
have so many of the masters sitting right here in these chairs on so many different things.
Don't
So
tell
it's,
people that.
Yeah, and just the final thought, and I had this in the introduction, that we are the keepers of the wisdom. We are the light keepers. We are the lighthouses.
Thank you.
So our ability to stay grounded, centered, and aligned,
Really important. right
and
now.
just like they tell you on the airplanes, if the little parquet margarine attached to the enema bag, get it onto yourself first before helping somebody else. As healers, that's important to us, that we, you know, that we are grounded, that we are centered, that we're aligned before we go out and start to
and again, see,
help.